what a fiasco.
Jeez.
So when you're trying to be fancy and you're trying to do things, it's just not gonna be happy.
I'm paying no attention to John until I know that we're online.
We are online.
Oh, who's watching us?
I see Dave, Sean, Howie are in that room.
Oh my. Oh yeah, crap, we are on. All right.
Yeah, we are on. We've got there. We've got some folks. We've got Tantrum, who's on the Facebook version of it. So
there's people everywhere. They're scattered about.
They're scattered, and we are trying to get things all lined up. So we're sorry about the weird beginning. It doesn't usually happen that way, but tonight YouTube's been kind of sketchy with us, and it didn't like us to start tonight's show.
Hi everybody.
So good evening and welcome.
Hello.
So Brian,
I'm doing my David Bowie impersonation tonight, by the way.
Which one?
Doing my David Bowie impersonation tonight with the hair.
Yeah, I got all down.
It just happened. I was crawling around on the floor and it fell, so we're going with it.
We're going to just run with it. So tonight we wanted to kind of talk about, we're going to look at some music and some videos and such, or the music side of it a little bit more on things that were really kind of influential in the industry. And I guess what it kind of brought me to this point of wanting to do or talk about that tonight was spending some time watching some of these 70s, early 70s, and the music from the 70s documentaries. And I'm sure a couple of these are some that you've shared with on the show, because there's just some great information and such there, and you're learning the behind the scenes and how this person had that effect, or how they were such a big thing in the industry and such. And in our little parts of the world, many times we had no idea that they even existed.
What? Really? That happened?
Yeah.
Where? Not here.
Precisely, and it's really, as I'm going through there, some of the stories that you talked about and how he's talked about and such. It's like, oh my gosh, that's the way it. That's what those guys are talking about, and it's actually really was true.
Not just making it up.
Yeah, just making it crap up. So, So then we wanted to talk about some of the music tonight that was kind of an influential music style artist, what have you, that that really affected the industry. And I'm just trying to get some links and such shared here, because there's some folks who are coming in.
Welcome, everybody.
And such. So, yeah, it's just...
We'll get going here.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Have a coffee, relax, we're here.
Yeah, we are getting close. And again, we're trying to... I want
to
get the links.
Like, tell stories while you're doing this?
Yeah, want to get the links out to some folks, because they want to be part of be on and watching the show. So that's part of the process.
My window's open, and I'm getting a little nipply here. Let me close this window.
Now, for some of you, you may consider that too much information. Just saying.
It'd have been bad if I showed you, but I didn't show anybody. I just said it was happening.
That's true, and we'll go with that. We'll.
Okay, so yeah, John threw this hand grenade at me today. He said, "Hey, influential songs for DJs," and I'm like, "Ooh, okay." So I picked a few, and just off the top of my head, and I guess we're going to talk about those, and we'll probably riff on some other stuff.
Yeah, so let me get that, because you sent a few songs over.
A few.
Maybe Facebook is now going to decide it's going to crash on me too. Yay, rah.
Well, we're up somewhere.
Yeah, because I wanted to get, I didn't get any of them loaded, but yeah, no, it's going to be a doggy little cheeky monkey.
So anyway, I tried to do a cross section of just things that I thought maybe were worth mentioning.
Yeah.
It's not a complete list by any stretch of the imagination, but some songs that I felt were probably important.
Yeah, it will. It is finally coming back up. Goodness gracious. It is just a slow internet tonight. Okay. I'm going to just go this route. So I think I've got everything here. Okay. I want to start with the Donna Summer.
Oh, yes. Donna Summer. That is... the one I gave you was I Feel Love.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that track is that is a Giorgio Moroder track. he is relevant again. He's actually DJing and producing. He was producing things on the last Daft Punk album, Random Access Memories. They did his own album a few years ago. I think it was 2014 or 15 or whatever. And he worked with several different artists on there. Kylie Minogue was one of them. They had a really nice song they did together. The guy is like my mother's age. He's like 76 years old. And he's just an amazing producer. But what's interesting about this track is it's probably the first legit EDM track, the way we think of EDM today.
You know, I do not have that track.
Maybe, you know?
I've got 70 Donna Summer songs and not that one.
You're missing the one we need.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I thought.
Well, I'm glad I gave those links to you, or those names to you, so you could get those songs for me.
Well, yeah, wasn't that really me working?
So while John fumbles to find the song, because he'll find it, he'll figure it out. What's interesting about this track is the whole thing was kind of a mistake. And what Giorgio wanted to do was bridge like electronic music, which is kind of like Kraftwerk. That was electronic music. It was kind of beep, 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 computer shit with an R&B feel, which is exactly, what a lot of that electronic disco stuff was, and trance and dance and EDM and everything else. When they were recording it, what Giorgio wanted to do, it was like kind of a march. It was like a dun 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 kind of thing. You've heard that before. But something went wrong with his sequencers or whatever he had. And there was this delay. And it turned out to sound and they left it. This is great. It was a complete mistake. It wasn't meant to sound like that. But it became a classic. And the reason this track is so important, and you'll be able to hear it soon, is because this track was sequenced. So it wasn't like a live drummer on this track. It was electronic drums. So DJs in discos back then were mixing tracks, of course. But this particular track, you could loop it for an hour if you wanted to, very easily.
Let me see if I can get the...
And they did. It's really fast.
Oh. Yeah, it was pitched up. Now let's see if we can bring it.
Bring her down.
There we go.
It's a weird version of that song, but that's okay.
It's the live a live version here.
Yeah, no wonder.
Let's see if I can put it out to you.
Hell, I could have played it. You to play it?
Yeah.
I got it. Hold on.
If you've got them there, yeah, because my camera situation.
Yeah, just turn that off. I'll play it.
Yeah.
Give me just a moment here.
This is a.
Because I definitely have it.
A live version.
Yeah, no, we don't want to play live versions of that.
Yeah, that's all I could find quickly here.
You're lame, John. Here, I'll pull it up.
I'm just not doing well on the tech side tonight.
Okay, here we go.
So now we got to get off this.
I'm going to turn this up, and I want you to listen, because what's interesting about this is right at the beginning of the track, there's like this swell, okay? And then it kicks in, and for the first 4 bars or so, it's kind of a train wreck if you listen really close because of that reverb. Mm-hmm. But then after the first 4 bars, it kind of hooks up. So give this a real close listen. You'll hear what I'm talking about. Right here. Let's see. Let's do this version of it. Hear that wishy wishy?
Yeah, can you give us a little bit more? There we go.
The train wreck's gone now. That's the first time anybody heard that before. That type of sound. This is brand new. This was like, wow, what is this? This is outer space stuff. This is futuristic stuff. Because it really was. This was the first time anybody heard it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, anyway. That's the groove right there. And DJs could loop that forever and ever and ever. It's really easy to do.
Now that has a somewhat familiar sound. Now, is it just because it is similar to many things that are used? Because, as you say, the DJs could loop that, or has that kind of a melody been used? Has it been sampled and used in other?
Yes.
both ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very, very big track. It's one that people don't really talk about too much anymore. But if you go back and you think about, the tracks that were really groundbreaking, that was one of them. That was the first. Giorgio did several after that were really good. Not the first track he did with Donna Summer. The first one he did was "Love to Love You, Baby," and that one's got a very different feel to it. A lot of people really dislike that song. I'm one of those people. I don't really like it. It tries too hard, I guess. She's moaning, and that's really not her. And the groove isn't even that good. It's more of the traditional band disco kind of stringy thing. This is electronic Giorgio. This is what made him huge, and this is kind of the direction he took with most of the Donna Summer stuff. It was more electronic.
But now, the "Love to Love You, Baby" was, when they produced or did that song, the idea behind it is they were kind of after that kind of a soft porn music in that particular track. Yeah. I mean, it was very forced though, and you can tell. It's Donna. That is not Donna Summer. That's not who she was. She wasn't into it. But the follow-up track, which is this one, this was the gold. This was the track. So yeah,
there's my riff on that.
Cool. Yeah, you're gonna probably have to do if you've got the songs. I don't know if you have them all there.
You want me to do them?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can do that.
If you've got the connections.
Let me just pull this back up again, and I will be the engineer as well.
Yeah, go from that side. I'll
happy to do it. Happy to do it. Let me just put stuff on screen so it makes sense. Yeah. I don't know how that sounded, folks. I hope it sounded okay.
Yeah, it was a little. I'm guessing the microphone caught the audio from the speakers.
Yeah.
So
it's the only way we can really do it. The way I got things hooked up.
No, we'll run with that because this is
the way it's hooked up right now. There's no other way.
Yep, that's cool. We'll run with that. That'll work.
So I mean, just give you little samples of what this stuff is. Oh, what else did we talk about? Let's see here. We talked about. Oh, I know.
You had an Apache song.
Oh, Incredible Bongo Man. Yeah. I'll play you a little bit of that here. Yes, I have to look at my keyboard. When I type, that's something I had to do after my stroke. Okay, so I'm going to play a sample of Apache by Incredible Bongo Band. There are a couple ways that this track was influential. The first way was during the whole David Mancuso loft thing. And we've talked about this before. This was kind of the first exclusive disco, but it was done in a guy's apartment. So back in the late 60s, early 70s, as you may know, New York was a mess. It was falling apart. It was bankrupt. Buildings were crumbling. It was just terrible. And it was that way through the 90s when they cleaned it up. But that was really when the decline started, and people were having a hard time making their rent. So the city of New York went ahead and legalized what they called rent parties. So you could absolutely throw a party and get your rent money together to pay it, because otherwise landlords were not getting their dough. This is one way that the artists could go ahead and generate cash. So the rent parties were legal back then. And a guy named David Mancuso had the hottest one, Loft, invite only, not a huge place. Not tiny by any stretch of the imagination, but not this giant place. But it was I guess you would say it was a medium-sized loft apartment. And the people who went to the loft, it wasn't like normal people went there. It was like Aretha Franklin went to the loft. She was invited to the loft. People like that could go to the loft. And David was the DJ. And then he had a couple other guys, Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles, were the bartenders. Now, as you may or may not know, Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles became the DJs. Larry Levan, he went on to do Paradise Garage, and of course, Frankie Knuckles did the Warehouse in Chicago. That was where house music was born. Later on, he went, I think, he went to the Music Box, was his next club. But yeah, I mean, these are very influential guys. They started working in David Mancuso's loft. Now, David Mancuso did not mix tracks. He wasn't a beat mix guy. He recently died. He died like a year ago. He just took people on this musical journey, you know, and he would pick kind of rare cuts, weird stuff that people had never heard before. But the way he would program his sets was so beautiful, people would just cry. They just fall up in tears. Now, I say bartend. There was no alcohol served. There was food and let's just say party favors. But Frankie and Larry were those guys in the early days. And here's one of the tracks that Larry played. And of course, like I said earlier, this is not the only reason this track is iconic. You will hear samples within this track that you've heard in other songs, drum loops and things. Again, this is an incredible bongo band. The song is called Apache. Maybe you recognize that, right? In every hip hop song?
Yep, for sure.
So it goes on and on like that. And then there's a break in it. And I want to play the break because you heard the break before too. So I'm going to fast forward to the break here. Jump on it. Jump on it. And the Sugar Hill Gang Apache used this too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the incredible bongo band, it's just to complete this track, Apache is just the instrumental.
It's from '68. Yeah, I mean it's just a kind of a jazzy, funky, weird track. It's not anything that was like on the radio or whatever. Just a weird track that David liked to play, and it grew legs.
Yeah. From
hip hop, it grew legs from him playing it. He had a lot of tracks like that. Like the Mexican was one of his big tracks. Apache was one of his signature tracks. There were several that were Mancuso's signature tracks, but a lot of them ended up in the hands of hip hop guys, and they did their own thing with them. So, and yeah, so that's a track that's kind of important historically for DJs and music. Once again, incredible bongo band Apache. That was our second one.
That was your second one, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that branches into hip hop. That branches into a lot of things. So
for sure.
Disco culture, hip hop, whatever. Very, very, very influential, important track. So that's my first one.
Let's see. Then you had Grandmaster Flash.
Adventures. Yes. Let's do that one. So many of you know the song White Lines, right? I gotta have this all lined up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You suck.
Yeah, I know. I thought I was going to have a little bit more time tonight.
It's okay.
That's what happens when you...
So you guys know White Lines. What you may not know is that Grandmaster Flash had absolutely nothing to do with White Lines. That was Melly Mel and some other dude. Grandmaster Flash had nothing to do with it at all. He was involved early on, and he did some really cool stuff with them. It wasn't as dark as White Lines and the message and all that stuff that you may know. The early stuff was a lot more upbeat. And he did this in one take. This is an interesting track. Speaking of incredible bongo band, you're hearing it in this. Grandmaster Flash's Adventures on the Wheels of Steel is a classic hip-hop track. And it's the first time that a lot of us heard a DJ mix like turntables, like what we're used to hearing. We'd heard DJs do transitions and things in the club, beat mixing, but as far as real turntablism, never heard anything like this before. There was no computer involved. There was no computer to do this kind of stuff back then. He had 2 decks and a stack of records, and he did this. All right, here, check this out.
You see, You say you want for the trouble, two for the time. Come on, girls, let's rock that.
Of course, Rapture. That was hot at the time.
You say you want for the trouble, two for time. Come on, girls, let's rock that.
Another one. Talked about this one too. We just played this. Incredible Bongo Band right here. He's looping it. And you'll go to the next one. And it goes on and on and on like that for like 8 minutes. He just keeps doing track after track after track. Now, by today's standards, you might hear this and say, you know, kind of whack, not really on it, but this is freestyle turntablism. He invented this.
So he literally 2 decks is what he was using to create this.
2 turntables and a stack of records. Nothing more. Nothing more. So yeah, hot track and influential in a lot of ways. Influential for hip hop, influential for club culture, influential for turntablism. Cool stuff.
The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel.
Yeah, what is this? What's the length on this track? 702 is what I got on mine here. But classic track. Classic track. Very influential in DJ culture, in hip hop culture, in turntablism, and all kinds of neat stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, he did it in one take. And I know that because he told me that personally when I talked to him. One take. He hooked this up. And we talked about White Lines, which was supposed to be another loop type thing, because that's what he did. Grandmaster Flash was looping everything. And Sugar Hill Records brought in the house band to play that. It's like a band playing the music behind White Lines. But the music is from something else. The music is from a band called Liquid, and the song is called Cavern. And they're like, well, there's no way that Grandmaster Flash could have looped this. He absolutely could have looped it. You want to hear a sample of Cavern?
Sure.
Are you interested? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Liquid. This is from about 1980, 1981. It was on an EP, and I do own it because I'm cool like that. Okay, check it out. Here we go. That is not it. That is Apache again. Sorry about that. This was about 2 or 3 years before White Lines came out. The music style is called No Wave. Not New Wave, No Wave.
No Wave, yeah.
So yeah, this was the idea, to take this and loop it for the groove, but Grandmaster Cass or whatever his name wasn't cool enough to do it, so they brought in the house band. Flash is like, how whack, man, I could have looped this. And he totally could have. He was that good.
Jeez.
Then here comes the break. I mean, it sounds very familiar. I mean, I'm sure to you.
Yeah.
But different at the same time.
Yeah, you can hear some similarities. The influence is used in different hip hop type tunes.
Yeah, but they're using the Sugar Hill Gang house band stuff. They're not using this.
Yeah. Well, you can see that.
But this is the band playing. Here we go. This is the freeze rough part, you know. Then they added the horns. I love what the Sugar Hill house band did with this, by the way. I'm not knocking on that at all, but Flash could have totally hooked that up. I mean, especially after something like Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel. I mean, amazing. This guy did it in one take. He could have totally done this in one take, too, and done some cool stuff with it. But.
Wow.
Anyhow, there's another one for you. Liquid's Cavern.
Let's see. So next you had Plastic Dreams.
Oh, yes. Plastic Dreams. That is JD. Now, Plastic Dreams is... why does it keep doing that? Lame software. This is probably the biggest club track of all time. Came out in, I think, 91. I think it's Dutch. And it's so hot. This is very trancey stuff. This track that we're listening to right now is 10 minutes and 12 seconds long. And it's 10 minutes and 12 seconds of fun. I love this track. But for club culture, this is the big one. This is the one that I can't think of a bigger club track than this. I'm really thinking hard too, and I cannot think of one bigger. The intro's long. I actually play this track weekly, by the way.
Really?
I play at my weddings. Okay, so you know you're doing like your dinner set, for a wedding, and then you've got that bridge between the dinner set and when you actually kick off, like you're trying to build the crowd up. I put Plastic Dreams on, and I don't know how many people even like it resonates with them. Like, oh my god, he's playing Plastic Dreams. I'm sure a few people do, but yeah, I always play this track, and I play the whole thing. It's low, but it's just kind of let people know that something's going to be happening soon. Here it comes. And you'll recognize this too. It's used in a lot of house, dance, club music, even within the last 15, 20 years. Here it goes. That style. First time we ever kind of heard anything quite like this.
Sure.
But yeah, Plastic Dreams, JD. Big club cut. I can't think of a more a bigger like modern club cut than this. I'd say modern, and it was almost 30 years ago,
Yeah,
but still.
Modern, it's a few years old.
Well, it's all postmodern. I mean, you talk about postmodernism. It's like everything's been done. Now we're just repeating everything in a cycle. So
taking some of the best and using.
Yeah, it's all recycled now. It's like nothing's new, and it's true. There's really nothing new. So I would consider that a modern track.
Okay. Let's see. Well, you mentioned Sugar Hill Gang earlier.
Yeah, I did, and we talked about Rapper's Delight. And there are several different versions of that song. Crap. Sorry about that. Yeah, Rapper's Delight's an interesting one because a couple things about this track that are kind of interesting. First of all, they totally stole Chic's Good Times. I mean, they ripped it off.
Yep.
And they asked for... They didn't ask permission. They just did it, And when Nile Rodgers filed a lawsuit, they sent thugs to his apartment to shake his ass down because that's how they did things back then. I mean, they didn't know. They eventually did settle out of court. But yeah, very gangster, man. It was just not something that you're supposed to do. They didn't know. They had no idea. Now, I got a version of this song that is, the full version of the song is 14 minutes and 33 seconds long.
Yeah, the real one. That was a long song.
Which is insanity. Now, I like the version that starts out with the bongos. There we go. It's the one I like. And this cut is 4:45, which isn't bad.
More of an album version there.
But it's got the nice intro in there. These guys were in high school when they did this track. And again, not really Chic's Good Times. This is the Sugar Hill House Band playing it. There's not Niall on bass. Or Bernard on bass. And to this day, people are playing this track. People are still requesting this track at my gigs.
Yes.
And it doesn't really matter who they are. Young people are asking for this. It's like the cool hipster thing to ask for. Hey man, you got Rapper's Delight? Yeah. And they'll dance to it. But I got to be careful. I got to play the shorter version because I play the long version.
You'll lose.
They tend to lose interest. So now here's what's going to blow your mind, or maybe not. There's a rap song that got airplay in 1979. 79, dude. That's insanity. Disco was still happening when this happened. So, like, you had this scene going on in Midtown, you know? Like, downtown, you had the scene going on in Manhattan. It was all disco, Studio 54, you know, all that stuff. Then, way downtown, you had the stuff Howie talks about with CBGB and all that, the punk scene. But then, up in Harlem and South Bronx, this was happening. So, you had this 13-mile island with all these different things happening on them at the same time. Iconic stuff, dude.
Sure.
Disco, punk, new wave, hip hop, all at the same time on the same freaking 13-mile long island. That's insane. That's insanity, dude. When you think about it, there's nothing happening in my city right now, but all the stuff was happening at once, simultaneously in New York in 1979, and that is crazy. It was happening even earlier than that with turntablism and the Jamaican sound systems and DJ Kool Herc and all that stuff. But yeah, really cool. You know, city was a wreck and a mess, but a lot of great music was happening. And stuff that we're still talking about to this day. Stuff that's influenced all the music that we're listening to today.
And that's somebody was mentioning that that the music today or in the future since the 70s will never be like it was in the 70s because there was just the optimal things all came together at the right time to give us that moment where mainstream started to dig into some of this and they were able to produce it and the different groups that were making it came and such could be individual within their groups enough. And today you're not going to have that because there's too much kind of homogeneousness happening because of this. We're all tied together with the internet. So you don't have people having their unique flavors quite as much as you would have had in the 70s.
You don't have scenes like you used to have scenes. Like, you know, you get an earworm, you know, it happens. You were saying Lori had the earworm of something a while back that was kind of funny. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, in Vegas, what were you saying that she was singing?
I don't remember now.
What was the song? I don't remember.
Yeah, we were chatting and laughing.
Oh, I remember. It was Brandy, wasn't it, or something like that?
Yes,
or
it was. It was from
or Ooga Chaka. I was hooked on a feeling. Blue Suede. That's what it was.
Thank you for that. Now you know what I'll be singing the rest of the night. Thank you, Brian.
The earworm I got. I was watching. I don't know if I know you don't watch a lot of TV, but I was watching Stranger Things. It's on Netflix.
Yep.
I was watching season 2, and there's a scene. If you're watching it, I don't want to blow it for anybody, but there is this one scene where the kids are in a car pulling into the high school parking lot, and they're cranking up the Romantics, Talking in Your Sleep.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that online. I saw that.
And I'm like, oh my god, I don't think I ever heard that track.
Really?
Since I spun it in the early 90s as a retro 80s song.
Really?
I think, it's been a long time since I've heard that track. I forgot how good it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a tight track. And if you listen to like What I Like About You by the Romantics, it's more of a punk track. It's kids having fun, jumping around guitars. It's very kind of early Clash or whatever. But Talking in Your Sleep, that is a song written by musicians who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I used to play that in a band. I played the guitar on it. I played the bass on it.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, I'm doing the fingering as I'm listening to it. I can't strum very well anymore or pluck, but I can do that fingering. I don't even know where I was going with that. But anyway, it's just this perfect storm of music that we just don't have anymore.
Yeah, I don't.
We're never going to have it again. That's okay. It's not going to happen anymore. Oh, I know where I was going with it. I Googled it because I was interested. I never really knew much about the Romantics. Mm-hmm. They were a Detroit band, you know. And Detroit had their own thing cooking. Like they had George Thorogood, they had Bob Seger on the rock side of things, you know. And of course, they had plenty of Motown stuff, and we all know about the Motown stuff. Yeah. But there were a lot of things happening in Detroit. It wasn't just Motown, you know. Especially then, it was a lot of rock and roll. That was the scene in Detroit. If you went to Detroit, that's what you could expect. If you went to Chicago, you were hearing more clubby stuff. You were hearing a lot of local artists making their own tracks for the club that were very homemade and kind of amateur-ish, but they were hits. And that's like the old early house music that we talk about sometimes, Marshall Jefferson and that kind of stuff. Milwaukee had a very rock scene going on. Of course, Minneapolis had the Prince thing going on. You'll never have that again, man. It's not going to happen. Everything is just so incredibly sterile.
To a point, yeah. Because if it has to be made, produced, put out there, and it has to sell, and it has to sell today, because if it doesn't, they're not going to give that artist a second, and for sure, certainly not a third chance.
I'm sure there's somewhere in the world, there's somewhere in the country where I could go to and I could hear something unique. I know if I went to New Orleans, I'd hear some jazz and some Zydeco. I know if I went to Memphis, I'd hear some blues. But, and of course you're going to hear some stuff in Nashville, whatever. But it ain't like it used to be, man. It's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
And it'll never be that way again. But I feel so lucky that I've lived during that era, I'm fortunate, and I'm very happy. And I think about my kid, my kid's 20 years old, and she is really into the 80s music, and she's into the 70s music, and she more so the 60s and the 80s music. She does a little bit of 70s stuff, but she loves 80s and she loves 60s. But I think 60s is kind of like her dinner, and the 80s is kind of like her dessert, the way she's looking at it. I mean, it's like that too. I mean, you got to have your fun stuff, and you got to have your serious stuff, It's like when you're watching movies, you can watch a drama and whatever, then you got to watch a comedy once in a while. And that's how she looks at it. So I don't know. It's not just me saying that this music is cool. It's the new generation saying that it's cool too.
Yeah.
I guess was my point.
Sure.
And I tend to ramble, and I apologize for that.
No, we're good. We'll wrap up our last one. Let's talk about the influence of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
Oh, Jesus.
There's a lot there.
I mean, what would I even play off of that as a sample? There's so many great tracks. My favorite one is, see if I can pull it. I told, it's like, give me tracks. Like, well, I could do that. Yeah, KG is my favorite track off of that album, believe it or not. It's one that like nobody knows, but
yeah,
I love this track. And this is Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, or MFSB. MFSB has been interpreted as something else, but it's Mother, Father, Sister, Brother. But this is just a Manhattan disco track right here.
Yeah, very much so.
My favorite track on the album. As a collective work, don't get me wrong, I love the Brothers Gibb, and I love How Deep Is Your Love, and You Should Be Dancing, and all of it. I think Jive Talking's on that album too, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, it is. Jive Talking's on that album, which is another really cool one. This movie introduced the world to club culture. It was disco at the time, but it was club culture. There was never a film before that. So the influence is not only the soundtrack, which everyone owned, but it was the idea that we got to go to the disco. We got to go out. We got to be someplace where there's a mirror ball, Very important. Very, very, very important in the DJ culture. This album brought people to the club initially. And of course, it became really mainstream and it burned out and all that. But then they came back, But this was the thing that started it all. This album started it all. And most of the tracks on the album, as you know, are more pop songs. Like all of the Bee Gees stuff is very pop. It's not really disco. Yeah. I mean, whenever anybody says, "Oh, play some disco, play Staying Alive," it just seems wrong because it's a funky track, but it's a mainstream track. This is a disco track right here. That's disco. There are other great songs on this album. I mean, Disco Inferno's on here. Geez, More Than a Woman. Manhattan Skyline's good too, but I don't like it as well as. And Night Fever is a beautiful song. I love this song. And this one's interesting. You hear that?
Oh yeah, no, it sounds really good actually.
I'm gonna play something else real quick. Hold on a second. Do I have it here? No, don't tell me I don't have it. Crap, I don't own it. I do not own it. Anyway, I thought I did. I do, but it's not ripped in here. Barry told his one of his guys who was doing keyboard, he says, I want a song that just says summer. That's what I want. And it's like, you know what says summer to me is Piercy Faith's Theme from a Summer Place.
Okay.
So if you can take that song, and if you can YouTube it or something and play it, that'd be cool just so you could hear it. If you could take that song and rearrange it, that would be cool. So he did. And that song is from 1959. I've talked about it on the show before.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't play any samples from it. So, John, if you could pull that up for me, because if I do it, I'm going to get YouTube commercial screaming at me.
Sure.
There you go. Here you go, right here. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Now listen.
So that's the Percy Faith song. So what did they do with it?
Okay, turn it off. Turn it off.
Yep.
Okay, now. I gotta pull up again. So unorganized here. I am so sorry. Okay, now listen to the intro to this one again. They just reworked it. That's all it is. It's backwards, I think. Then it goes. But yeah, that was the influence for that track. And he wrote it and he did it and he liked it. And there was a guy, I don't remember his name. He wrote an article for the New York Times called, or the New Yorker rather, called, give me a second. I can't remember the name of the damn thing. It was something like The Slaves of Saturday Night. And it was basically all of these, it was an article about clubbing and discos. The tribal rights of Saturday Night. That's what it was called. Okay. The tribal rights of Saturday Night. So he wrote this article all about this disco culture and all this stuff. And then somebody said, you know, we should make a movie about this. I think it'd be a good movie. And so the writer actually asked Barry Gibb, what should we call this movie? And he said, we should call it Saturday Night Fever. Because I just said, no, it's called The Night Fever. That's what we should call the movie, The Night Fever. And he says, we can't call it The Night Fever. That sounds like an STD. You know? We can't call it The Night Fever. So, well, I wrote a song called Night Fever. It'd be perfect for you. It's like, no. So then they call it Saturday Night Fever. And kaboom. Nobody expected it to do what it did, but it did amazing things. And Barry was the guy who produced the soundtrack. A lot of the songs on here he wrote that other people even did. Cool stuff. Very important in our culture, club culture, and DJ culture. Going way back. And if I would have known that I'd been the DJ tonight, I'd have been a lot more organized.
Yeah, that we didn't.
So I apologize. I hope this didn't completely blow.
Oh, I think they're.
There's not some cranky old guy in the comments saying, "What the hell, guys? I tuned into your show and you was."
No, we're the cranky old guys tonight. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, our internet. I think the streams seem to be holding pretty solid. I think people have had a good experience with that. But yeah, everything is so doggy here for controlling. It's like, oh no.
Sorry.
So yeah, I think this wasn't our best technical night by any means, but I think the people they appreciate the stories and such and had some fun with that. And yes, we did miss the Macarena and the Electric Slide because of the incredible influence they had on the music industry.
We'd be here whether or not they were here.
Yeah, I think so.
That was kind of my point. I was trying to go back and do stuff that brought us here in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, that was neat. A couple of those I had not heard of. And
really? Which ones have you never heard of?
The very first one, Apache. I didn't realize that there was came, and then the JD one. The JD was the other one.
Plastic Dreams?
Yeah.
Oh, it's classic.
I'm gonna have to go listen to Plastic Dreams and such a little bit more.
Plastic Dreams is if you like trancey, clubby stuff, it's an amazing track. Yeah, there was a time when that was played weekly.
Yeah.
If you didn't play it, it was like, what happened? Why did you play Plastic Dreams tonight? But that's the kind of stuff you heard in the cool clubs, you know.
Yeah.
They would play that kind of stuff.
I'll have to go dig into those just a little bit more.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, that's just kind of a one-off. There's nothing else really like that out there. But if you listen to things like some Armin van Helden and stuff, he's using a lot of those beats, especially in the early, like You Don't Know Me, that kind of stuff. Or Armin van Buren, I'm sorry. But Armin somebody.
Yeah,
somebody, Armin Van's someone.
Yeah,
I don't
Van
know.
Buren.
Damn German producers.
Damn.
There's just too many of them named Armin van something. Oh boy, let's see. What else was I going to say? I can't remember what I was going to say. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes,
I'm glad
David says, John, you're going to have to jump on it. Thanks, David.
There's something that you might find interesting if you enjoyed Apache by Incredible Bongo Band. Research this. Back in the early days of hip hop, there was a bootleg record being made for hip hop DJs, and it was called Ultimate Breaks and Beats.
Okay.
And what they did with these records was they took the hard to find tracks like Apache, and they would put them on like an EP. Like there'd be 4 tracks on an EP. There'd be, 2 songs on one side, 2 songs on the other, of tracks like Apache or The Mexican or, a multitude of other just weirdo songs. Evelyn Collins is on there. Like she's the one, she was like James Brown's niece, and she has a track called Think About It. And there's so many things going on in that track that you've heard in hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock pretty much used that song for It Takes Two. And there's some other, but anyway, they did it, and it was really popular, and it was hard to find. But they ended up doing several Ultimate Breaks and Beats albums. And every time this bootlegger put out a new Ultimate Breaks and Beats, all of a sudden you were hearing the songs that were on the latest album in the latest top 40 hip hop track. So they were that hard to find. This was before internet. This was before you could just go buy anything off the shelf or whatever. You couldn't just go buy these records. The way records worked is there were releases and then it was over. You didn't have represses all the time, especially if something wasn't doing well, and people definitely weren't stocking it. So that was the way to find these really cool, rare records for hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Weird stuff on there, like Billy Squier. What was his tune that was on there? It was a Stroke, I think, was on there. Rock Music by Jefferson Starship. All kinds of crazy songs. Check it out. It's really interesting. You can find the list of these songs and pull them up and listen to them on YouTube. I don't know if Cavern ever turned up on that. It might have turned up on there by Liquid. It may have, but yeah, cool stuff. And that's all the early hip hop stuff. It's all the stuff that came out on the Ultimate Breaks and Beats. But again, that stuff was stuff that was made popular, 15 years earlier, 20 years earlier with David Mancuso and the Loft. A lot of it was. And then some of it was newer. Some of it was just weird German electronic stuff or whatever. Real interesting. If you ever have a chance, check out the Ultimate Breaks and Beats collection.
Yeah.
There's some neat stuff on there.
I'll have to dig into that and see.
you might find some songs you like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Incredible Bongo Band Apache is kind of a neat song.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Good stuff.
riffing tonight.
There you are. Yeah, and I think that worked well. We've got
With Bowie hair.
the Bowie hair. Thank you guys for being with us and watching tonight and hanging out with us. We again apologize for the audio wasn't what we were hoping for. We had
I apologize for the terrible show, but we did our best.
No, I think it turned out better than much better than. But yeah, we've been doing so well on our audio, and then tonight, and the streaming and everything just kind of fell apart. So, you guys have yourself a great weekend. Hopefully, our software is going to now allow us to go. Good night, everyone. It's not worst.
It's not leaving.